Welcome, everyone. We are currently doing an audio of the study written by Pastor Lancelot Knight of the former King's Chapel, and he did the study on the book of Ezekiel. We are currently in chapter 38, so if you haven't heard the previous recordings, you may want to go back and listen to those so you can catch up to where we are here now. Okay, without further ado, let's get started. The time is soon coming when enough is enough. By the latter days of the reign of the king of Babylon, who will be exercising all the power of the first beast, which is the one world system, aka the New World Order, he will be pushed by the bruisers and become indignant against the people of Yahweh, and even send Rosh and his allies against the land of Israel in her new land, the land that not too long ago was just a wilderness. Okay, I'm going to stop here for a minute and make a little comment. If you look at the book of Daniel, you'll find that the dream Nebuchadnezzar had representing 4 kingdoms, which were Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome, it had 10 toes. I submit these 10 toes represent the 10 kingdoms that Rome encompassed and are currently in existence today. That would be your European Union. This is not the one world government. There's only one world government in the word, and that is the government that the stone is cut out of the mountain grows to become and encompasses the entire earth. This stone kingdom that most likely is the United States, which was a government cut out of England. It destroys the 4th beast government of Daniel 7 along with its 10 toes immediately prior to the return of Yeshua Messiah. Now, what I'm speaking here is a historicist point of view as opposed to a preterist or dispensational futurist view. And I believe this historicist view is the most accurate interpretation of eschatology. Okay, so let's continue. At that time, our Father will determine that enough is enough and intervene by sounding the 7th trump. Here are how the forces of God come against America. Ezekiel 38, verse 9. Thou shalt ascend and come like a storm. Thou shalt be like a cloud to cover the land, thou and all thy bands, and many people with thee. You and your allies, a vast and awesome army, will roll down upon them like a storm and cover the land like a cloud. That is the LB version. Yep, Gog and his troops will come like a storm, but just wait until they run into the storm Yahweh has waiting for them. Verse 10. Thus saith Yahweh Almighty, it shall also come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. Remember in our last study about the evil spirits going forth from Satan to the kings of the earth, Revelation 16, verse 14? Well, it really doesn't take much to get old Esau riled up against his brother Jacob. He has always been envious and jealous in that his brother Jacob received the bountiful birthright blessings from Yahweh instead of him, even though it was his own fault for despising his heritage and selling out the birthright blessings of his posterity for a mere bowl of communist red pottage. Genesis 27, verse 41. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then I will slay my brother Jacob. Esau hated his brother Jacob because Esau was envious and jealous and angry. Well, those are not a very nice things to come into thy mind. And Esau said, then I will slay my brother Jacob. Now that's a downright evil thought. Do you remember in chapter 35 we learned that this hatred Esau has for his brother Jacob is a perpetual hatred? Ezekiel 35 verse 5. Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end, with a mind set like Esau's, it won't take much for the evil spirits of the New World Order under the administration of the false Messiah to get Gog all fired up to come against the house of his brother Jacob Israel. Okay, I want to stop here again and add a little comment and say that this is a futurist view, meaning futurists believe that before the return of Yeshua, a false Messiah will come and rule the world. As I've commented before, as a historicist, I submit that the false Messiah is already here, sitting in the temple of billions of believers. The word says it's a spirit of Antichrist or anti-Messiah, as the case may be. It's not an individual, it's a spirit in many. Okay, for more information on this subject, I will leave a link in the description for you to learn more about this false Messiah. Okay, let's continue. Verse 6. Therefore, as I live, saith Yahweh Almighty, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Seeth thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. Get ready, Gog, you're going to get what's coming to you. Ezekiel 38, verse 11. And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them, dwelling without walls, and having neither bars nor gates. So, in the latter end of the latter days, the leader of Russia, with his evil thoughts in mind, will see an opportunity in the unwalled cities of the land of opportunity, the land of the free, and the home of the safe dwellers. Cue the Star-Spangled Banner music. Why? What is it that Gog wants? Verse 12. To take a spoil and take away prey, to turn thine hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations, which have gotten cattle and goods that dwell in the midst of the land. Oh my goodness, we're back to the same old thing, the basis of Esau's perpetual hatred. He's after spoil, which is the goods and the merchandise and the wealth and the property, i.e., all the blessings of the birthright that Yahweh has blessed the USA with. So Esau wants to just take by force what doesn't belong to him. That's an evil thought too. Do you know who the gathered people of verse 12 are? It's real easy to know. All one needs to do is read the history of this nation, and he or she will find this land to be the melting pot of the gathering of all 13 tribes of Yahweh's people, Israel, as they came to our shores from among the nations. The reason for 13 tribes is that Joseph's birthright was split between his two sons, Ephraim, England, and Manasseh, America, thus making Manasseh the 13th tribe. Let's see, there were 13 original colonies and 13 original states. There are 13 stripes in our flag. Insert comment 3. Okay, I've got another comment to insert here. If I may add, there are actually 13 months in a year based on the phases of the moon. Yahweh's word says he appointed the moon for the seasons. The sun knoweth his going down. That's in Psalms 104:19. It was the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth that thought to change the times and the law and the seasons. That's in Daniel 2:21 and 7:25. Yahweh's calendar and Sabbaths and feast days are based on the moon, whereas the mother of harlots changed the calendar and its times and its laws and its seasons first with the Julian calendar, and then with the present Gregorian one, along with replacing Passover with Easter Ishtar. You can read about this from Wikipedia, where it says Constantine and the witty invention that changed times and laws. Caesar Augustus, more commonly referred to as Constantine the Great, in AD 321 through 325, legislated his new updated version of the early Roman solar calendar, first introduced by Julius Caesar in 46 BC. This calendar was the first step in developing the worship rhythm for his new Christian religion. Did you hear that? A new Christian religion. Christianity is a solar cult religion, in my opinion. Okay, back to Lance Knight. In fact, did you know that between the obverse and the reverse signs of the Great Seal of the United States, there are 13 sets of 13? Really? Take a dollar bill out and see for yourself. For instance, the eagle holds an olive branch with 13 leaves in its left talon, and it holds 13 arrows in its right talon. Its beak holds a scroll with the 13-letter phrase E pluribus unum, which means one out of many. Tribes, that is. The cloud of glory above the eagle's head has 13 stars in it, and there are 13 bars on our flag and 13 rods in our national mace. Then, too, the pyramid has 13 courses of stone, above which is written in 13 letters, Annuit Coeptus, which means He has favored our beginnings. Want to know more? Read the booklet, Our Great Seal by E. Raymond Capt, and learn the rich history of how our seal was brought forth, carrying the heraldry of Israel. If all this is true, then let me see, this is tongue-tying me. If all this is true, then wouldn't you say that the number 13 is the national number of the United States of America? No wonder Satan wants everyone to think it's unlucky. In the next verse, we will see the World Trade Centers of Sheba, Dedan, and Tarshish, with all the money-hungry young lions vying to cash in on the assault by Gog against the richly blessed people of Yahweh. Verse 13, Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish, with all the young lions thereof, shall say unto thee, Art thou come to take a spoil? Hast thou gathered thy company to take a prey? To carry away silver and gold, to take away cattle and goods, to take a great spoil? By the way, Tarshish is the home of the Kenites, who are the sons of Cain, who have been calling the shots in Russia for a long time, especially since 1917, when they ousted the monarchy of Nicholas and Alexandra and turned Russia into a communist state and closed all the Christian churches in the land in an attempt to eliminate believers from the nation. Yahweh bless the people of that land who hold fast to their spiritual faith at the risk of losing face, reputation, or even life. I want to add another comment here. Did you know that 1917 also marks the date when General Allenby took back Israel? So that ended the 2,520 years of punishment of Jerusalem. I'll leave a link for more on that. Okay, let's continue. So, if you are familiar with the deities of the Kenites and the methods of their operations, then you know that wherever and whenever the opportunity arises to play Let's Make a Deal, you will find them gathered about. You can just hear them say to Gog in verse 13, "Go for it, Gog. We'll not only finance your offensive, with interest, of course, but we will also broker the spoil for you for a small fee, of course. We just want you to be comfortable with your evil plans and know that we're behind you all the way, Gog." Verse 14, "Therefore, Son of man, prophesy and say unto Gog, Thus saith the Almighty Yahweh, In that day when my people of Israel dwelleth safely, shalt thou not know it?" Don't you get it, Gog? Don't you understand that Yahweh's people dwell safely because He protects them? No one else has ever defeated the USA, and yet you think you and your allies can come against her? Verse 15, "And thou shalt come from thy place out of the north parts, thou and many people with thee, all of them riding upon horses, a great company and a mighty army." I guess you think you can come against the house of Israel, O Gog, and it is written that you shall. It is even written what direction you shall come from, that you shall come with your forces out of the north. Note, could this be Alaska? One of the finest, most credible Bible scholars and teachers of our day claims to have personal knowledge that Alaska will be the final burial ground of Esau's forces led by the chief prince of Rosh. Though it is presented as speculation, for there is no direct biblical documentation, this teacher supports this speculation for some of the following scriptural reasons. The army of God do come from the north, where Alaska is located. No cities of Israel shall be entered into, and the armies of God shall fall upon the open field. That's 39, verse 5. But perhaps the most visible sign that Alaska is the Hamon-Gog of Ezekiel 39:5 is that on March 29, 1876, the Russian minister to the United States and our Secretary of State, William H. Seward, signed an agreement making Alaska part of the United States, i.e. part of Jacob's land, and no longer part of Esau's land. Some call that agreement Seward's folly, but you see, Esau once again sold some of his inheritance to his brother Jacob. This time not for pottage because he was hungry, but for just over $7 million because he needed some dough to fight the Crimean War. The number 7 in biblical numerics is the number of spiritual perfection, and it will be Yahweh himself, not man, who strikes the bow and defeats Gog and his allies. Hey, what difference would it make to Esau if it was land given to him by Yahweh? Esau has no regard for his heritage, remember? His philosophy is that if you get hungry for red pottage or green money, just sell your birthright. Too bad he didn't know about the rich gold deposits in Alaska and the rich black gold oil reserves located there. Jacob made out once again by receiving a blessing at the hand of Esau's disregard for his heritage. It would therefore be so fitting that Alaska would be that open field where the chief prince, Rosh, and his army fall. We'll just have to wait and see. Ezekiel 38, verse 16. "And thou shalt come up against my people of Israel as a cloud to cover the land. It shall be in the latter days, and I will bring thee against my land, that the heathen may know me, when I shall be sanctified in thee, O Gog, before their eyes." Again, this all takes place in the latter days, even the latter days of anti-Messiah's reign, i.e. at the very end of this flesh age. And these specific events shall take place, for we are reading in this 38th chapter of Ezekiel that it is part of Yahweh's plan. Yahweh fully intends to destroy this military assault all by himself without man's help, and he will do it for a very good and loving reason. He is not mean, nor is he a bloodthirsty Yahweh, but rather his actions will show to all his children that he alone is the Almighty. Yahweh Almighty now asks the chief prince Meshach another question. 38 verse 17. Thus saith Yahweh Almighty, Art thou he of whom I have spoken in old time by my servants the prophets of Israel, which prophesied in those days many years that I would bring thee against them? Yes, even though we are reading this prophecy about the destruction of Rosh and his band of opportunists in the book of Ezekiel, this is really old news. You will find that the latter end of Esau was written of long ago in Numbers 24, verses 17 through 25. You will even find the Kenite mixed in there to give Esau false security. So, what else is new? Verse 18, And it shall come to pass at the same time when Gog shall come against the land of Israel, saith the Almighty Yahweh, that my fury shall come up in my face. When the chief prince Rosh allows the evil thoughts planted by anti-Messiah and his locust army to cause him to take action and come against the house of Israel, Yahweh Almighty sees red, Esau red. And we will read in the next study that Yahweh Almighty personally strikes down the forces of God. Verse 19, For in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath have I spoken. Surely in that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel. Yes, it certainly will shake up the people in the land of Israel. But remember, this is the last day of this flesh age and the first day of the millennium. In other words, Yeshua Messiah has returned and all the earth is handed over to the King of Kings and Almighty of Almighties. That is a shakeup of the whole earth, and so shall it be. Ezekiel 38, verse 20. So that the fishes of the sea and the fowls of heaven and the beasts of the field and all creeping things that creep upon the earth and all the men that are upon the face of the earth shall shake at my presence, and the mountains shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. It's all over. It's the end. The nations shall all turn in their crowns to Messiah, and the walls of that great city, both physical and spiritual, will come tumbling down just like the walls of Jericho did at the sound of the seventh trumpet and the shout. Verse 21, And I will call for a sword against him through all my mountains, saith Yahweh Almighty. Every man's sword shall be against his brother. The brother that every man of Rosh is against is his brother Jacob. Verse 22, And I will plead against him with pestilence and with blood, and I will rain upon him and upon his bands and upon the many people that are with him, an overflowing rain and great hailstones, fire and brimstone. The word plead means to judge or to pronounce sentence. And yes, the defeat of God's forces will be bloody as Yahweh literally puts a stop to this army in like manner as he destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah by raining fire and brimstone, and now with great hailstones too. By this method, no man or nation can claim the victory for the defeat of Rosh. It is much like knowing that man cannot take credit for a hurricane, can he? Keep in mind that Yeshua Messiah is returning on the very day this happens, and we know that all flesh will be turned to spiritual bodies, some by an instant change in a moment and a twinkling of an eye, 1 Corinthians 15:52, and some like those of Sodom and Gomorrah. Either way, it will be quick. Okay, I just want to add, it's not all flesh that'll turn to spiritual bodies, but there's a lot of evidence in the Word that only Israel will be the ones that are given those spiritual bodies and will enter into that kingdom. The Mongols and the Edomites, I think they're just going to be ashes under our feet. There's not going to be no spiritual bodies. Okay, let's continue. Here's a refresher of how Sodom and Gomorrah bit the dust. Luke 17, verse 29. But the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. Okay, one last time so that we never forget. Why will the final events of this flesh age happen in the manner we have read here in Ezekiel 38? So that all his children will know that I am is Yahweh. Ezekiel 38, verse 23. Thus will I magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I will be known in the eyes of many nations, and they shall know that I am Yahweh. In our next study, we will see the results of a battle where pitiful man comes against Almighty Yahweh. Okay, just to give you a verse to support what I said earlier, look at 2 Chronicles chapter 30, verse 6. Ye children of Israel, turn again unto Yahweh the Almighty of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, and he will return to the remnant of you. Does it say to all of them? No, it just says to the remnant. Does it say to all flesh? No, it says just to the children of Israel, and even then, only a remnant. Okay, that concludes this particular study. Next time we'll pick up with verse 24, and hopefully we'll get through this. And here's some of my other platforms in case you want to watch some of the live streams that we have weekly on Rumble, the Lily Valley. You can also check the Royal Assembly in Yahweh Nation. And any thumbs up would be greatly appreciated. That will help get the word out to more people. All right, Yahweh richly bless you. Hallelujah.